What's up, guys? Hey, thanks for tuning in again. If you haven't been tuning in to the previous episodes, this is episode 3 of basically the Turbo R race build that I'm doing. It's a 4-seat chassis that I've cut everything off of so far, and I'm basically chopping it down, sucking it in to making it a 2.5-seater. If that makes any sense to you guys. What I'm doing is basically just building a full race chassis. 4-seat for me is a little bit too long, so I'm cutting it down to make a 2-seat and enough space to put a big honking 35-gallon fuel cell right back here, and then the rest will be a normal race car. So in today's episode, we're going to cut down the frame. Stay tuned. This might get interesting. Alright, so like I said, today is the day that I'm going to be cutting the chassis and sucking it down to where I want it to be. It's a very stressful day. Like I said, if you haven't already been following along in the previous episodes, be sure you do. I'll link them right up there for you. This should be, so this is episode 3, day 3 of trying to build this race car. So what I'm going to do, it's very stressful. So as you can see, I don't really have very much space to actually chop from. I can't touch my trailing arm mounts here, so these are staying here. I can't really do much here because I don't know if you can see it, but it kind of dips down here, so I can't sleeve it. So I wanted to cut this section out right here and bring it in. That way I can mess with the driveline issues. I can still use, I guess, essentially the first 2 pieces of the driveline that go from the transmission to the middle of the car, and all I would have to replace is the long one right here in the front. But I don't really have a good space to sleeve it. I could cut down this entirely, take this whole chunk out, but then I'm left with only like a 4 or 5 inch sleeve, and I don't want that. I want to be able to sleeve it as long as I possibly can to give it more rigidity and give it any chances of it failing with any reason. I don't want that to happen. So what I've come to is this section right here, from this tube to this tube, is 10 inches. Just a little over 10 inches, actually. It's like 10 and a quarter, 10 and an eighth or something like that. But if I take out this section right here, I don't mess with this guy here, which is so the driveline mounts right here and right here. And there's a separate small piece here. So if that's the case, I can still use the stock driveline from there to there, still use the stock driveline from there to there, because it is a 3-piece driveline. So I can use that one, I can use that one up there, which will be just left with this small little guy here. Cut down on cost and material, and I think that's the smartest move. So what I'm going to do is, since I know this is straight, obviously, and this is straight, it gives me a perfect guide to make sure that the chassis is going to be kept perfectly straight, perfectly even, and I won't have to worry about there being any tweaks at the back of the chassis is one way or another. It'll be exactly even. So that's what I'm going to do. You're just going to have to wish me luck, because it's kind of stressful. This is a very crucial part of the whole entire build, is cutting this chassis down. Kind of wanted to cut it down a little bit more than 10 inches, to be honest. I wanted to cut it probably 12 inches. But what's 2 inches more? I don't know. Sorry, super stressful. Just because I have one chance to get this done and one chance to get it right. And today's the day to see if I succeed or if I fail. So stay tuned. I'm gonna start cutting these tabs off here, these gusset supports right there. I'm gonna cut that stuff off, and then D-Day is here. I will cut down the chassis to where it needs to be, sleeve it, and start building this car. So stay tuned, guys. We'll get right to it. Well, as you know, I got this thing all cut out. I got some tubing here, which I'm going to sleeve into here, into that tube, and start the process of sleeving this thing up. I got to drill some holes for some rosettes so I can, when I sleeve it, I can tack weld it all in there and make sure it's all nice and tight. So I'm going to drill some holes and try to shove this sleeve in there, and so I can put the pieces back together. This is the guy that I took out of the chassis. 10 inches. Doesn't even seem like a whole lot. Really kind of wishing I would have taken out more. But it is what it is at this point. This is going to be the best bet. 10 inches is quite a bit if you think about it. So I'm excited to see what this thing turns out like. But so I got to get to work. So I'm going to put you on a time lapse really fast, drilling some holes, getting this sleeves back in there, making sure they're straight and even, and then put this damn chassis back together and hopefully weld it, make sure everything's nice and straight. God, it's so stressful. Alright, so I chopped down the frame, threw in some, let's see if you can see it, I threw in some rosettes all throughout here, which is essentially just drilled holes and tubes. So that way, when I stick this guy in here, let's see if I can get you to see this. So I drilled all these rosettes all in here so you can see the tube in there. There's a bunch of them all throughout. But that way this sleeve right here, it being pretty much butt all chopped in there. I mean, it's all buttered in there up until this point right here. It's a 32-inch piece, so I mean it's pretty long. That way this has enough space to go all the way in as far as it can to create as much structural strength as possible. Do the same thing from this side, same thing on that side, and then we're going to slide this frame all the way in till it butts up right there. So I'm pretty excited to get this far. I'm going to I got to grind off all around here and make sure this is all nice and smooth, chamfer everything. Yeah, but I'm pretty excited. Hopefully it goes in super smooth, and I mean that's pretty long. You want it long so that way there's no kind of flex, or you don't want to make it a weak point. So if you have, if anything, that's going to be more structurally sound than the whole chassis itself right there, because it's double the wall thickness. So many things, right? But I'm going to go ahead and put on the other side and then slide this frame together, and then we'll finally see what it's going to look like. Man, this is a challenge, but a very exciting part of the build itself, the main part of the build, and that's chopping this down and getting it to the length that I want. So I'm excited. I'm gonna get to it, start stripping down all this stuff, make sure it's all beveled up and ready to be welded. Weld it all up, call it a day. This is where it would be nice to have two people in the shop. But sorry if it's shaking. Oh man. Sorry, it's going to shake a bit.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Well, I was struggling to try to get that piece in there, and I was wondering what was it catching on. And from, I mean, looking at the chassis, it shouldn't be anything touching it. It should be nice and smooth throughout right there. I looked in there and I'm like, well, I don't see anything. What's it hitting? But if you can see, I don't even know if you can see down in there, but if you look down in there, sorry, it's terrible. But if you look down in here, see this guy here? This is inside that tube. So, unfortunately, it won't let me. It only lets it go about to here, and that's it. It stops. Oops. Sorry. It only lets me go to here, and it stops. So, that means I'm going to have to cut off like 4 inches of this guy. And try it again. It sucks because I wanted that piece to go all the way in, but unfortunately it's not going to go in all the way right now. Oh well, right? Alright, so now I got everything good to go. Those pieces are in. Now it's time to put the frame that's back there. I had to push it back just so I can, you know, make sure everything is cleaned off, ready to weld right there. So I'm gonna set you up on the table. I'm sorry if it gets shaky, but I'm gonna put the chassis together and we can see where see how it comes out. All right. It's times like this where I wish I had two people in the shop. Got one side in. There we go. There we go. Let's see if I can. Had to use a little wedge here in order to get it the frame high enough. But well, that's that. I still have to push it in just a hair, but I got to give myself enough room to weld, so that way nice and welded there. Same thing on that side. But essentially, this is what it's going to look like. You know, for cutting off only 10 inches, it really does make a big difference. I didn't think it was really going to be noticeable, but it totally is. Because if you think about it, let's see. So, hey, let's go around on the other side here. So I marked right here, this is the seat tube. So the seat tube was for the back of the seats going forward, was right here. So boom, basically essentially right where this mark is right here, and it brought it in quite a bit. And then that way, from essentially right here to right here is the space I have for a fuel cell, which will be boom right across there. And that's just what I wanted. I wanted a nice, I might even push the seats back just a hair, or I might just keep them where they are. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But yeah, that looks really good. I like that. Now I can imagine, like, so when this gets cut off and redone, yes, I decided to finally, I was talking to some people, and Braden Baker is going to help me out. He's going to send me over basically his whole mount that he uses for all his race cars. He's going to send me out all the CAD pieces, and I'm going to weld them up. Basically create a whole front bulkhead on the top. Get rid of this top big tube here, and then create everything as far as a dash and stuff like that goes from there. So huge shout out to Braden Baker. Thank you so much. If you don't know who he is, check him out on Instagram. Polaris Factory Racer, short course racer. He's a very young guy, but very talented driver, and he builds his own race cars too. He has a shop and all the fancy tools. I don't, but maybe one day, right? So huge shout out to Braden. Thank you so much. But this is essentially what it's going to be like. So, like I said, coming up here, the tube will be up here, boom here, and then it will drop to right here. And that's exactly what I wanted. And then I have a space, so from this cross member here to that one is the space I have to work with for a fuel cell. Place is a disaster. Man, now I got to go and make sure everything's perfectly straight. A great thing, and the reason why I cut it where I cut it, was basically it gave me a straight edge for everything. It gave me a straight edge where to cut, and then now I can measure from here to here and make sure everything is perfectly straight. So if this is, let's say, 10 inches, okay, make sure 10 inches here, 10 inches there. Got yourself a straight chassis, or at least a straight base, right? That's exactly what I wanted to do. I'm pumped. Woohoo! Oh man, like I said, and I've told you this in the last video, I am not a chassis builder. I'm not a fabricator. I don't even pretend to be one. I do stick some metal together and create stuff, but I wouldn't say, hey, I am a full-on fabricator, because I'm not. I know how to do stuff. I've been around racing. I've been around mechanics and cars and stuff like that my whole life. And just gave me an opportunity to build cool stuff, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. But that's it for this video. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's following along on this. Like this is only day 3, and we've gotten this far. There's gonna be a lot more content coming, a lot more videos coming. Everything's just going to be about this build right now. We're going to build this car, show you some of the struggles we go through, some of the good parts about everything. And I know there's going to be times where I mess up, so we're going to say, hey, don't do this, do it this way, or whatever it is. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, be sure you do, because I'm posting a ton of content on there as well. Stay up to date with a lot of stuff, because I'm going to start releasing videos probably once, maybe even twice a week, given that I work down in here a lot. Try to film as much as possible, so there might be some gaps between some stuff, so I apologize for that. But it's kind of like whenever I get down here, I get some time to work in the shop, I do it. Sometimes I make a full video off of it. Sometimes I only have a couple hours. Anyways, that's the ring. The wife is calling. I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Bye.